Hey, it's another edition of Dolphins Today, and time to get you updated on the latest injury news as the Dolphins enter their bye week. And there's a lot to get to because the bye week could not come at a better time. Right in that halfway mark of the season, Dolphins 6-3 in first place in the AFC East. Not a bad spot to be. So let's start with some news on the offensive line as it relates to the health of this offensive line that has been bitten by the injury bug all season long. This from Barry Jackson, one of the best beat writers in all the land, talking about Robert Hunt, who missed that game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany with the hamstring injury. He was seen walking around well. Everyone's hopeful of a return after the bye. But the readers asking on Hard Knocks, talking about, of course, the Dolphins going in as the in-season team on Hard Knocks. A little bit of that to come later on. There's still the filming going on and all that good stuff, but it won't be a distraction for this team during the bye week. But Robert Hunt walking around, good news there. So just to give you an update on him, he started the first 8 games at right guard. Remember, the right side of the line, not necessarily as impacted by the injury bug. It's the left side that's been troublesome so far, but he was injured in that Week 8 matchup against the New England Patriots. But Robert Hunt has been arguably one of the more consistent and productive players for this Dolphins offensive line. You see it there, only 1 sack allowed. Really impressive. He's been asked to do a lot, and he's done it very well and has performed swimmingly and exceeded, in my expectations, and probably a lot of yours as well, just the 1 penalty as well. And I don't get too crazy about the Pro Football Focus grades. However, let's take a look at them. They are a way to benchmark, especially on the offensive line. You know, you're not going to see the touchdown stats or the rushing stats, that sort of thing. And the offensive line obviously works as a unit. But Robert Hunt's Pro Football Focus grades are impressive in an 8-game sample size. The run blocking grade, you see it there. The pass blocking grade, very, very consistent. And the overall grade averaged out at the 73.4. And that's in 453 snaps. So again, not a small sample size, a very, very representative sample size for what Robert Hunt has been able to do. From one Robert to the next, Robert Jones, who left the game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and many feared it was going to be a long-term knee injury. And I think anytime an offensive lineman leaves with a knee injury, I think human nature is to kind of maybe assume the worst. And fortunately for Robert Jones, Mike McDaniel spoke on the record in his press conference earlier in the week saying he's week to week, and just about everybody around Robert Jones believes that surgery will not be needed. So really important that there on Robert Jones. Now, back to Robert Hunt. Again, from one injured player to another, will not need surgery and likely not on injured reserve week to week moving forward. So good news there as well. Take a look at Jones's stats. The 2 games played in a backup role and filling in. He's filled in admirably, 105 snaps and has not allowed a sack. Now, he has been penalized twice, but again, he has filled in admirably for this Dolphins offensive line. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and take the pulse with a little report card from this offensive line in a 9-game sample size, because many believed it would be the weakness of this team, but it is not, in fact, the case. They have been a strength of the Dolphins offense, and in particular, the way they've been able to protect Tua Tagovailoa. In fact, you see it right there on the screen. 4th fewest sacks allowed in the National Football League. 9th best pass blocking unit. Again, that's according to Pro Football Focus, so we don't want to go too crazy with that, but again, it's one more measuring stick in the progress that this offensive line has made. And they've been banged up. They've been doing it by committee, which you got to appreciate. 6 different O-line combinations have started in the 9 games. So a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, this, that, and the other, and it leads us to our confidence level in the Dolphins offensive line. Let me know in the comments. Need you to scale it 1 through 10, your confidence level in this Dolphins offensive line moving forward for the rest of the season. Coming up, we'll talk more injury updates because there are plenty more to get to, both some good news and some wait and see news. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that's Prize Picks. You guys hear me talk about Prize Picks all the time, and here is what you need to know. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. So if you're like me and your fantasy team sucks, not to worry. Daily Fantasy Sports is a much better platform for you. And Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform. So you know you've got the best library of picks that you're working with. And here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on a player's projected stat line. Do it every Sunday with the Dolphins, which is always a good time. And obviously, I'm almost always picking more. But do it for yourself. Try it at prizepicks.com/CLNS. We always make it easy on you. We put that link in the chat as well as the description. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. And for being a Dolphins fan, a Dolphins Today subscriber, we've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now, staying on the offensive side of the ball, who can forget River Cracraft and the positive impact he had on this team early in the season from the wide receiver position? He went on injured reserve, but he is trending towards a return. Mike McDaniel spoke about that return earlier this week to the media, and here's what he had to say. He's had a couple of good weeks of practice. He hasn't had any setbacks. He's chomping at the bit to come back. Probably show his face here sooner rather than later. But you got to love Mike McDaniel. Always keeping us guessing a little bit, never providing that absolute timeline as he stays away from any absolutes in regards to timelines with the injury updates. But, you know, it's probably good news when the head coach says we're going to be seeing his face sooner rather than later. And Cracraft's not a huge stat guy by any means, a little bit of a role player in the wide receiver room, but in his first 3 games, he had some production. 6 receptions. Now, those 6 receptions are on 8 total targets, so the percentage numbers there are really good. On those 6 receptions, 87 yards and a touchdown as well. So again, it's not going to be that headliner guy that you have to game plan for, but certainly somebody that makes a positive impact for this Dolphins team. So I ask you this, does River Cracraft play in Week 11 against the Raiders? Let me know in the comments. Type Y for yes or N for no. Now, we talked about it yesterday. We talked about it the day before, and I'm still getting comments on it, which I love. Shows the passion of Dolphins Today and the Dolphins fan base. But we all want to know, when is De'Von Achane returning? De'Von Achane has been an exceptional running back that's burst onto the scene. And good news, as we mentioned yesterday, that is sooner rather than later. De'Von Achane nearing a return. And look at the numbers. I always jump to this one. 12.1 yards per carry. Are you kidding me? Just incredible in a very small 4-game sample size. But this Dolphins offense has not been the same without him. And De'Von Achane, in all indications, are that he'll play in that game against the Raiders following the Dolphins bye week. And what a duo that backfield is when he and Raheem Mostert are both at it. Look at the production when those two are toting the rock for the Dolphins. And again, the yards per carry for Achane is just insane. But Raheem Mostert, those 11 rushing touchdowns are tied with Christian McCaffrey for the most in the NFL, and he has been impressive. And we know about the breakaway speed with both these guys, 2 of the fastest players in the NFL. Tyreek Hill right there with them. But that 76-yard run by De'Von Achane against the Denver Broncos, that's the one you plug in on the highlight tape. Just incredible stuff there. So one more time for De'Von Achane from Barry Jackson. So far, so good. That was the terminology that Mike McDaniel used. And he said, quote, hasn't been any reason to think he will be on IR any longer. And he's eligible to return in that game against the Raiders. So you got to love that, because what a boost that will be to the running back room. Now, this running back room has had a little bit of its ups and downs, been a little bit of a roller coaster. Raheem Mostert, the unquestioned RB1. You got to believe when Achane comes back, he's RB2. And then who will step up to be RB3? Will it be Jeff Wilson or De'Von Achane? Now, early in the year, De'Von Achane was taking some reps. We saw him a little bit in that game against the Chiefs, but we saw more of Jeff Wilson. But I don't think either one has necessarily solidified themselves enough as RB3, which means I'm going to leave it up to you. You got to let me know who is this team's RB3. Type JW for Jeff Wilson or SA for De'Von Achane. Let me know in the comments. Now, to the defensive side of the ball, Brandon Jones was not able to play in that game against Kansas City. He was in concussion protocol and missed out on the trip to Germany, which is a bummer because he's played really well. Remember, he underwent that hit from Juju Smith-Schuster in the game against the Patriots near the end there. He was going up for an interception when Juju Smith-Schuster of the Patriots kind of lowered his head into him. But point being, Brandon Jones has played really well so far this season, but is in the midst of being in concussion protocol. But he practiced today in a very limited role. Of course, those bye-week practices, as you know, much more of a walkthrough than anything else. He was in a red no-contact jersey, but good to see Brandon Jones back on a football field nonetheless, because when you pair him with some of the other talented safeties that this team has, it's part of what makes this defense, and in particular, the secondary, really, really stand out. Javon Holland's been excellent. Deshaun Elliott's filled in well in the absence of Brandon Jones, and you've got Elijah Campbell there for depth as well. So I feel good about the safety room. There is no doubt about that, and feel really good with Brandon Jones trending towards coming back. And really, that's the theme of all of this, is the Dolphins are getting healthy during the bye week, and you feel really good about the direction of this team. You would have loved for them to get a big comeback win against the Chiefs, of course. But 6-3, first place in the AFC East. I think if anyone was presented with that for the first 9 games, we'd all sign up and sign our names to that. Oh, yeah, let's do it. Everything's in front of this team, and I'm looking forward to seeing them embrace this second half of the season, starting with the Week 11 matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders.